had really bad anxiety growing up. I always, like, as a kid, described it as heartburn. I always thought that there was something wrong with my heart and it would flutter. Later on, come to find out that that was me at the age of like 6 and 7 having panic attacks. And I didn't realize that was what was going on. And it'd be like right before church and like right before when I would step out of a dark room into like something that was bright. My body just couldn't handle it and I'd start going into panic attacks. And I always felt guilty about them. Every time you would have a high, it would go back down to an extreme low. And because I was so low, I would feel anxious that people would notice.
Well, I mean, when I was college aged, it was crazy taboo. I mean, you just didn't talk about that sort of thing ever. It's just something about that generation. Parents kind of felt like if you didn't talk about it, maybe it didn't exist, or if you didn't talk about it, then it wouldn't be a problem.
I grew up not knowing that that was even a thing. Like, now that I'm older, I can see parts where my dad has struggled with feeling depressed or feeling down or whatever. And I never got to have that validation of that is something real that you can feel and that's something that you can struggle with. I think the most detrimental thing I came into contact with was that nobody talked about it.
I think a big reason why talking about mental health is such a taboo topic is because nobody wants to admit that they're not perfect. Everyone wants other people to think that they have everything together, and it's a sign of weakness if you are struggling with something.
I'll hear students come in all the time and say, you know, I'm here, but I'm not telling my parents I'm here because they are not a fan of mental health. There's even sometimes this view of like, it's against Christianity. You know, if you're seeking mental health, then somehow you're, you know, not putting enough faith in God.
And I think that's really hard for the church to look at because it's like, well, if you were really, really strong, it wouldn't be a struggle. And it's like the fact that you are alive, the fact that you are still fighting, the fact that you are doing the best you can, that is strength all in itself. I think people need to take a step back and realize God made therapists, God made chemists. There's a reason why your body is so out of whack. The devil tries to quiet you and be like, well, that's weakness. Like, you don't want to show weakness. And it's like, but in my weakness, God is strong and God is able to work through those things when I let him just see, when I vocalize, when I'm not shut down and my spirit isn't shut down and my voice isn't shut off to say what's going on. And I think if the church would open up that revenue of get help and then let us as a church build you up as you go, I think that would help not only kill a subject that is very taboo, because nobody wants to be weak, but it would also increase the church in so many ways because people won't be stuck in this dark place that they think they're all alone in.
I think older generations perceive mental health as you have to go into a psych ward, like you're that bad that you have to go into something severe. And they don't realize that maybe some of these other things, depression, are actual real things that can be helped, that can be treated in not such a severe way. As a millennial, we started saying, hey, I'm actually struggling with this, what can we do? And I think as time has progressed, it's become a more open environment for you to say, yeah, I'm going to counseling for this. My parents' generation, they didn't do that. They didn't say, okay, like I've been really struggling, let me go see a counselor. Like that was like, it's not that big of a deal. Like I'm not gonna go to a counselor, like I can figure it out, kind of a thing.
Counseling has evolved a lot. Counseling is not very old as a profession. So if you look back to the beginning stages of it, it was more like Freud and everyone, like if you came to counseling, he was going to bring out that you were some sort of sexual deviant or something crazy. And so I think there's some type of an understanding that needs to come that, that counseling has evolved as a profession. And so, people's views of counseling kind of need to evolve so they're not so taboo anymore.
I think the point is that you need to be open enough to at least acknowledge that yes, I'm depressed. Yes, I've got this problem or that problem. You need to be open enough to at least acknowledge it so you can move in the direction that it helps you.
I think people really have to be conscious of the fact that it can look so deceiving.
People can hide them a lot of times with smiles and being really outgoing. So I think that it puts so much pressure on you to be a person in society that's happy or successful. Even if you are successful and you're not happy, it's hard for you to admit that because in some people's eyes, you've made it, you've arrived, but then behind closed doors, you're not happy, you're not fulfilled, and it could be more damaging sometimes than anything physical happening to you.
And I think something with depression and anxiety, it kind of separates you from what reality is. It amps up things that aren't really amped up, and it demeans things that probably should be a lot more important to you. I know when I was in school and I was really depressed, I would closet everything. I was very outgoing, and I was so outward, almost manic. I needed people to see a happy energy in an outgoing and crazy energy. But I would go back to my room and be struggling with self-harm and depression and anxiety all day. I would get to my homework and I would have breakdowns because I strained myself so much to make an image and an idea and a thought of who I was that I tanked my chances of having energy for other things. I would put myself in positions that I knew I wasn't safe in because I wanted to prove that I was happy and that I was comfortable with whatever. And I was the girl that could just go and hang out with whoever and party however and have any friend and any guy friend, any girl hang out, and I was just down. I tried to build them up so they would give me some kind of energy that I was like, all right, well, I'm okay. Well, they like me. As long as I say life is good, as long as I pretend like we're not financially struggling, as long as I pretend that my legs aren't burning because there's cuts all over. And I think it got to a point where pretending just wasn't good enough, and pretending to be happy wasn't good enough. And it drove me over the edge to where I had to have people mandate me and force me to be like, hey, so there's something wrong with you and we're gonna help you. I remember sitting and just being like, how dare you people try and tell me that there's something wrong with me? My daddy tells me I'm perfect. Like that mindset of, well, everybody loves me. Everybody knows I'm happy.
One of the most important things that a person that is struggling with mental health is a support group, a support system, whether that is a friend, family members. It doesn't have to be all of the above. It really means a lot to the people that are struggling because a lot of it has to do with loneliness. A lot of it has to do with me not feeling loved. So having a support system that is there for you no matter what, that checks up on you, that's a huge thing that is beneficial to people that are struggling.
I think there's part of people that are depressed or have anxiety or depression that they just want to be pulled out of this reality of I'm broken. And I think once they find people that are walking in a consistency of I am here for you and I will not judge you, I think that's a place where a lot of people are able to grow and to seek out help and to open up about the things that are really hurting them. If I didn't have my rugby team at ORU that completely accepted me and loved me, I would have never told my coach about the guy who raped me. Never. I would have kept it to myself. I would have been completely quiet. I would have believed the people who were there that night that told me that it was my fault, that I was just out of control and I was manic. And there was no way for anybody to tell what I wanted. I was with people who are consistently loving on me and supporting healthy decisions, like working out, waking up early, eating, because I wasn't eating. And I had people who are just like, you can do it. If they're really in a place where they're not getting the support they need, they're not getting the medication they may need, or just the overall healthy environment, you're not going to be able to change them with that one act or that one situation. And I think it's very dangerous to walk into that thinking, oh, well, if I just take them out to lunch that one time, they're going to be fixed. And it's not that. And I think People get bitter at people that are in mental health because they're not healing at the time rate you believe that they should be healing at. The way somebody else heals is not going to be the way I heal. My dad didn't need medication. I did. I got to have the opportunity to be sedated and put into a place of restart and then build my way out of it. It started with heavy medication to the point where I lost memory. Like, I don't have an entire semester worth of memories. But then after I got out of school and I was trying to do my best to get out of it, I was put on lower medications and I was able to build my way out of it and slowly and surely be weaned off of it. And I was taught in those times to seek healthier coping instead of feeling like I had to be in a relationship to be happy, pushing to work out, talking to a therapist at least once a week, working, feeling like I have purpose and moving towards something. That was my way of healing. It wasn't my dad's way of healing, but that was my way of healing. I think that really helped me to just take accountability for my actions. Because I think people forget that in these times when you are hurting and you are going through things and you're choosing these things to cope that aren't the best things, you are hurting yourself. And I think that's somewhere that we forget, that we have to actually forgive ourselves. Be like, I forgive myself for whatever may have happened. And I'm okay with what happened. And from this moment on, things are going to be different. And I think once people are able to find who they are, whether it be in Christ or if you don't believe in God, or if you find a peace inside of you where you're like, this is me, strive and go after protecting that part of you with all your being. Because that's the part that matters the most, is finding who you are and loving that part of you and validating that part of you as much as possible. And seeking help where there is help to be had.
You will enjoy life so much better if you deal with the things that's going on mentally. And it may not seem that significant, but it really is. And you might not see it until you're there and saying, wow, I'm so glad that I did that because I enjoy life so much more. I find joy in the smallest things when before I couldn't find one thing about the day that I had joy about.
You are not your trauma. You are not your anxiety. You are not the things that hurt you. You are not that night where nobody was watching and somebody did something horrible. You're not that day where you couldn't get out of your bed. You're not that moment where everything went south. You are able to come out of it. And it takes a lot of work. I'm not gonna lie and say, oh, you're gonna get a magic pill and it's gonna go away and you're gonna be happy, or you're gonna look down and all the scars on your wrists or on your legs are gone, because that's not true. But you do have the ability to move past those. You have the ability to look down at them and be inspired that that was a day that I made it. It may not look like I made it, but I did. I'm here today. That was a bad moment. It wasn't a bad life. Growth is possible. You're not stuck. It may feel like you're stuck, but you're not. And seek out the people who have the skills to help you. Do all that you can to find people who will support you being healthy. Whatever it is you have to do to be healthy and to be in a spot where you're able to take care of you, that is the most important thing. And that's the thing that you should strive for. Not perfection, but growth in any way you can. You as a person that wants to be there and help, you have to realize they're not going to heal on your schedule. They're going to heal on their own. And you are there to be a light. You're not there to redecorate the whole room. You're there to be a light, and that's it. And I think that is something that as a whole we should look at and be mindful of, that we're there to be a light to a person who's in darkness, and we're not there to fix the whole house. They have to be at a place that they're ready for each room to be fixed. together.